There is a truth few want to hear, but every soul must face. The only way to truly escape the prison of repeating mistakes is not to wish them away, not to blame circumstance or others, but to master yourself, your mind, your habits, your choices, so that the past's grip loosens and your future becomes unshakably different. We all stumble. We all fall. But the tragedy lies in the stumble without the rise, the fall without the learning, the loop of failure repeating until it becomes the story we tell ourselves and the limits we accept. To break this cycle, you must become the master of 7 principles, each a pillar supporting the new architecture of your life. These principles are not theories or platitudes. They are forged in the fires of real experience, shaped by the wisdom of those who refuse to be defined by their errors and illuminated by the clarity of relentless self-examination. These are the principles that separate those who rise from those who remain trapped, who get rich in spirit and fortune from those who settle for survival, who become better people each day rather than prisoners of yesterday's poor choices. First, the principle of ownership. There is no growth without ownership. When a mistake happens, the strongest response is not denial, not excuse, but absolute ownership, acknowledging the role you played with brutal honesty. This means stripping away every mask of blame and every shroud of justification until you see your part clearly. Ownership is the gateway to freedom because it puts the power squarely in your hands. If you refuse to own your mistakes, you surrender control over your destiny to the past, to others, and to chance. Owning your failures means saying, "This is mine. I created this outcome. I will now create something different." It is a fierce declaration that you are no longer a victim of circumstance but an architect of change. Second, the principle of reflection. Once ownership is claimed, the next step is to dive deep into reflection, slow, deliberate, and unflinching. This is not a moment for quick fixes or surface apologies. It is a sacred examination of what happened, why it happened, and what you must do differently next time. Reflection demands humility because it forces you to confront uncomfortable truths about your mindset, your habits, and your blind spots. It invites you to become your own mentor, asking, "What patterns led me here? Where did my judgment falter? What signals did I ignore?" Through reflection, mistakes become teachers rather than curses. This practice rewires your brain, transforming impulsive reactions into deliberate wisdom. Without reflection, history will always be destined to repeat itself. Third, the principle of responsibility for change. Recognizing the mistake and reflecting on it are meaningless unless you take full responsibility for making the necessary change. This principle moves beyond thought into action. It is a commitment to redesign your behavior, your routines, your environment to ensure you do not fall into the same pit again. Responsibility for change demands discipline. Disciplined effort to replace destructive habits with constructive ones, to build new muscle memory in your daily life. It insists that you become relentless in pursuit of better choices, no matter how hard the transformation may be. It is easy to say, "I won't do that again." It is far harder to redesign your life so that repeating the error becomes practically impossible. Master this, and you begin to reclaim your power. Fourth, the principle of patience in progress. Change is never instant. It is a journey through storms of doubt, the slow erosion of old patterns, the quiet building of resilience beneath the surface. Patience is not passive waiting, but active endurance. You must understand that the path away from your mistakes is long and winding. You will face setbacks and temptations to revert. But with patience, every small victory compounds. Every moment of persistence pushes you further from your former self and closer to mastery. This principle reminds you that lasting transformation is a marathon, not a sprint. It teaches you to embrace the struggle as part of the process, knowing that every deliberate step forward builds momentum that no obstacle can stop. Fifth, the principle of clarity of purpose. Without a clear, burning reason to change, your efforts will falter at the first sign of discomfort. Purpose is the compass that guides you through confusion and chaos. It is the fiery core that energizes your resolve and clarifies your direction. When you understand deeply why you must avoid repeating the same mistake, whether it is to build wealth, reclaim self-respect, protect your relationships, or fulfill your destiny, you create an unbreakable bond with your future self. Clarity of purpose transforms change from a chore into a mission. It makes the hard choices easier because the price of failure becomes unbearable. Master your purpose, and the temptation of old mistakes will lose their power to distract you. Sixth, the principle of adaptive learning. Life is never static, and neither should your approach to mistakes be. What worked once to correct your course may not work forever. Adaptive learning is the skill of constantly refining your understanding, experimenting with new strategies, and staying flexible to evolve. It means refusing to become rigid or complacent, always seeking better insight into yourself and the world. When you master adaptive learning, you turn mistakes into dynamic growth points, each failure sharpening your instinct and expanding your capacity to navigate uncertainty. This principle demands intellectual humility and emotional resilience, the courage to change course when needed without losing sight of your purpose. Seventh, the principle of gratitude for the struggle. This may seem paradoxical, but the deepest mastery comes when you begin to see your mistakes not as curses but as gifts wrapped in pain. Gratitude for the struggle means recognizing that without these tests, without the hard lessons carved into your spirit, you would remain stagnant, unaware, and untransformed. It is the practice of honoring every failure as a stepping stone toward wisdom, strength, and richer living. Gratitude shifts your mindset from victimhood to empowerment. It fills your journey with meaning, reminding you that every setback contains the seed of an extraordinary comeback. When you master gratitude for your struggles, you transcend fear of failure, and mistakes lose their grip as prisons and become doorways. To live by these 7 principles is to claim a new way of being, one where mistakes no longer define you but refine you. It is a call to arms for your soul to rise and demand more from life, from yourself, and from the world you are shaping every day. Imagine a life where every misstep is met with ownership, reflection, and responsibility, carried forward patiently by purpose, refined by adaptive learning, and honored with gratitude. That life is not a distant dream, but a choice within your grasp this very moment. Your future self waits, eager to be shaped by the courage you summon now. So stand tall, breathe deep, and let these principles become the fire that lights your path forward. The past may be written, but the future is yours to master. Refuse to repeat the mistakes of yesterday, master these principles, and you become unstoppable. The journey of mastery over mistakes is not for the faint-hearted. It demands a relentless refusal to settle, a defiance against the comfort of repetition, and a fierce hunger to grow beyond the limits imposed by your past. This path strips away illusions and forces confrontation with the raw reality of your choices. But within this crucible is forged a version of you far stronger, wiser, and more resilient than before. The rich do not merely stumble into wealth. They build it brick by brick, lesson by lesson, failure by failure. Each mistake a blueprint for greater success when met with these 7 principles. Consider the power of ownership once more. It is not simply about admitting fault, but reclaiming your narrative. The moment you say, "I am responsible," you break the chains that bind you to excuses and surrender. This act alone is revolutionary because it returns authority to you, the creator of your life story. It is the first step from being acted upon to becoming the actor. Without this, you will drift endlessly, buffeted by external forces, always at the mercy of circumstance. Then reflection, think of it as a mirror held up not to your surface but to the depths of your soul. This is where true insight lives. Reflection demands patience and brutal honesty, asking questions that sting. Why did I let fear dictate my actions? Why did pride silence my judgment? What truths was I too blind to see? The answers transform from burdens into beacons. When you look deeply into yourself without flinching, you start to recognize the patterns that have been your prison and can design new paths to freedom. But insight without action is like a ship without a rudder. Responsibility for change is the engine that drives your transformation. It is the sweat, the grit, and the unwavering commitment to take every insight and turn it into new habits and new realities. This principle insists that knowledge alone is not power. Power is knowledge applied consistently over time. When you wake every day with a fierce resolve to do better, to be better, your mistakes lose their power to define you. This transformation unfolds slowly and demands patience. The principle of patience is a testament to the human spirit's capacity to endure and evolve. Change does not arrive wrapped in fireworks. It comes disguised in quiet persistence. Each day, you refuse to fall back into old patterns. You build new strength. Each moment you hold fast despite temptation. You weave new threads into the fabric of your character. Embrace this patient unfolding, knowing the greatest victories are those earned over time. At the heart of your resolve lies clarity of purpose. Purpose is the fire in your belly, the North Star guiding you through doubt and distraction. Without it, the pull of old mistakes is irresistible because the cost of change feels too high. But when you connect your actions to a profound why, your entire being rallies behind you. Purpose fuels discipline, sharpens focus, and makes sacrifice meaningful. It transforms the grind into a mission worth every ounce of effort. Life is unpredictable, and mastery requires adaptability. The principle of adaptive learning is your shield and your sword in the face of change. As you evolve, so too must your strategies. This means staying curious, staying humble, and never resting on yesterday's victories. Each mistake becomes a fresh opportunity to test new approaches, to rethink assumptions, and to grow smarter. Adaptive learning keeps you nimble, ready to pivot, and always moving forward. Finally, gratitude. The principle that might feel most foreign yet is most transformative. To be grateful for your struggles is to embrace your humanity fully. It is to recognize that every trial, every failure has been a master sculptor shaping your character and wisdom. Gratitude turns pain into purpose, loss into learning, and fear into fuel. It frees you from the paralysis of regret and opens your heart to the infinite possibilities of redemption and renewal. Mastering these 7 principles does more than prevent repeating mistakes. It revolutionizes your entire existence. It births a mindset that welcomes challenge as a chance to grow, views failure as a guidepost, and understands that every setback carries the seed of a comeback. You become a force of nature, unyielding, ever-evolving, and deeply alive to the endless potential within you. So step forward now, with courage in your chest and conviction in your voice. Let ownership ignite your spirit. Reflection, deepen your wisdom. Responsibility, harden your resolve. Patience, steady your pace. Purpose, light your way. Adaptability, sharpen your mind. And gratitude, swell your heart. This is the alchemy that transforms mistakes into mastery, pain into power, and ordinary life into a legacy of greatness. You do not have to be defined by what you have done wrong. You have the power to redefine yourself by what you choose to do next. Master these 7 principles, and the cycle of repeating mistakes will shatter like glass beneath your feet. The path to wealth, to better living, to becoming the person you are meant to be starts here, begins now, and never ends. Rise, master, transform. The world awaits the greatness only you can deliver. Let this truth settle deep in your bones. The journey to break free from repeating mistakes is the very essence of becoming the architect of your own destiny. Each moment presents a choice to fall back into old patterns or to rise anew with the clarity and strength forged from the fires of experience. It is within these choices that your power resides, waiting to be claimed. You must cultivate an unshakable discipline, not merely of action, but of thought, emotion, and belief. Without mental discipline, the lessons of ownership, reflection, and responsibility remain mere words, unactivated and powerless. Discipline is the silent guardian that stands between you and the temptation to surrender to the familiar pain of old mistakes. It is the daily practice of steering your mind away from doubt, fear, and distraction toward the unwavering vision of your purpose. Discipline builds the bridge from insight to transformation, from intention to reality. It requires that you forge habits not out of fleeting motivation, but from a commitment deeper than mood, a covenant with your future self that no setback can break. But discipline alone is not enough. You must also master your attitude, for attitude colors every decision, every reaction, and every step forward. A positive, resilient attitude turns obstacles into opportunities and failures into lessons. It fuels perseverance when the road is steep, and lights the way when the path is uncertain. Your attitude is the lens through which you view your mistakes. Choose to see them as seeds of growth, not stones of burden. Communication, too, is a vital force on this journey. Speak honestly to yourself, stripping away self-deception and denial. Speak clearly to others, seeking support, wisdom, and accountability where needed. Communication is not just the sharing of words, but the alignment of your inner truth with your outer expression. It ensures that your commitment to change is not isolated, but woven into the fabric of your relationships and environment, strengthening your resolve. The transformation you seek is not a solitary moment, but a continuous evolution. It demands daily engagement with these principles, weaving them seamlessly into the fabric of your life until they become second nature. Each day is a test and an opportunity to choose ownership over blame, reflection over reaction, responsibility over resignation, patience over frustration, purpose over aimlessness, adaptability over rigidity. and gratitude over bitterness. This is the rhythm of mastery. Know this. The wealth you seek, whether of money, peace, love, or fulfillment, is not found by avoiding mistakes, but by mastering the response to them. It is the power to rise each time you fall, stronger and wiser, that defines true richness. This power is cultivated through the unyielding practice of these 7 principles, which form the backbone of a life that refuses to be shackled by the past. So rise now with the determination to master these truths, to transform every misstep into a stepping stone, and to live each day as a deliberate act of creation. The mistakes of yesterday are gone, but the lessons remain a sacred inheritance. Claim them. Embody them. Let them propel you forward with a force unstoppable and a spirit unbreakable. Your future is not a replay of your past. It is a new symphony composed by the courage, wisdom, and relentless action you summon today. This is your moment. Seize it. Become the master of your mistakes, the creator of your destiny, and the person you were always meant to be. The world awaits your greatness. Step into it now. The path forward is lit not by the flickering flame of fleeting motivation, but by the steady, unrelenting fire of commitment. To avoid making the same mistake is to embrace a lifelong pursuit, a sacred discipline that demands your full presence in every moment. This is no casual endeavor. It is the work of a warrior sculpting the masterpiece of their own life. Each principle you master becomes a weapon against the inertia of complacency and the shadows of doubt. Ownership breaks the chains of victimhood. Reflection reveals the hidden traps of your mind. Responsibility for change forges the habits that sustain transformation. Patience guards you through the slow grind of growth. Clarity of purpose sharpens your resolve. Adaptive learning equips you for the shifting landscapes of life, and gratitude turns every scar into a medal of honor. Understand this deeply. Mistakes are not enemies to be feared, but signals urgent, necessary signals that something within you needs attention, adjustment, or realignment. When you treat mistakes as enemies, you fight a losing battle against yourself. But when you listen to them, learn from them, and integrate their lessons, you build a fortress of wisdom and resilience that no failure can breach. This shift in perspective is the alchemy that turns regret into power and setbacks into springboards. You must also guard against the quiet poison of complacency, the slow surrender to good enough, that allows old mistakes to creep back in under the radar of awareness. Mastery requires vigilance, a constant returning to these principles, an ongoing commitment to the daily rituals that shape character. It requires that you hold yourself accountable not only in moments of crisis, but in the ordinary flow of your life. True mastery is found in the small decisions, the choice to act with integrity when no one is watching, the refusal to cut corners, the dedication to growth even when progress feels invisible. Remember, the greatest mistake is to believe you are alone in this struggle. Every person who has ever risen beyond their mistakes has walked this path of mastery. They have faced their own darkness and chosen to become the light. They have stumbled, fallen, and risen again, stronger each time. Their stories are your roadmap, proof that transformation is possible, that mastery is within reach. So commit yourself now to this relentless pursuit. Write your own story, not as a victim of your past, but as the victor over it. Build a life so anchored in these 7 principles that the mistakes of yesterday become nothing more than distant echoes, reminders of the power you hold to change, to grow, and to become more than you ever thought possible. This is the legacy of mastery, a life lived with courage, clarity, and unbreakable resolve. Stand firm, for the journey is long, but the reward is infinite. Master these principles, and you will never be the prisoner of your mistakes again. Instead, you will be the author of your destiny, the captain of your soul, and the master of a life lived fully, boldly, and without regret. This is your calling. This is your power. Embrace it and rise. This is the moment when everything within you must align: the mind, the heart, the will, forming an unyielding alliance against the complacency that beckons and the shadows of past failures that whisper doubt. To master the art of never repeating the same mistake is to become a relentless seeker of truth in your own life, a vigilant guardian of your growth. You must learn to listen deeply, not just to the loudest voices around you, but to the subtle murmurs within, the quiet signals that reveal where your patterns betray you. It is not enough to know the principles intellectually. They must be lived, breathed, and embodied with fierce consistency. Ownership must become your first reflex, reflection your daily discipline. Responsibility for change must ignite your actions, before excuses arise. Patience must steady your spirit in the face of slow progress, and clarity of purpose must burn so brightly that distractions are swallowed by its light. Adaptive learning demands that you meet each challenge not with fear but with curiosity and courage, transforming obstacles into opportunities to refine your approach. Gratitude, the final and often overlooked principle, is the soil in which all growth takes root, nurturing humility and resilience through the harshest storms. The journey is neither smooth nor easy. There will be moments when old habits claw their way back, when the temptation to give in to familiar patterns feels overwhelming. In those moments, recall the power of these principles. They are your armor, your compass, and your strength. They are the daily rituals that keep you anchored to a higher version of yourself, preventing the slippery slope of regression. Above all, remember that mastery is not a destination, but a continual process. A lifelong dance between striving and surrender. It is in this dance that you become more than the sum of your mistakes. You transform each failure into a stepping stone, each setback into a setup for your greatest comeback. This is the sacred alchemy of personal evolution. Rise now with unshakable resolve. Let these 7 principles be the foundation upon which you build a life marked not by the repetition of errors, but by the relentless pursuit of excellence, wisdom, and freedom. You are no longer bound by the past. You are the master of your future. Walk forward with courage, discipline, and gratitude, and watch as your life becomes a testament to the power of transformation. The world awaits your greatness. Step boldly into it, and never look back. Let this truth settle deep within you. Every day is a new battleground. Every choice, a decisive stroke, shaping the masterpiece of your life. The mastery of avoiding the same mistake is the sacred art of presence, the vigilant awareness that catches the subtle shifts before they become disasters. It is the courage to confront your weaknesses without flinching and the humility to ask for help when needed. It is the unbreakable commitment to rise again, not just once, but every time you falter. Remember, your environment is a silent force, shaping your habits and thoughts. Surround yourself with those who challenge your growth, who demand your best, who reflect the standards you aspire to uphold. Isolation breeds stagnation. Connection fuels transformation. Let your circle be a mirror and a hammer, reflecting your truth and breaking the chains of complacency. Mastering these 7 principles is to become an alchemist of your own destiny, turning past failures into golden lessons, forging resilience where others see ruin, and crafting a life that speaks not of what was lost, but of what was gained. It is not a path for the timid, but for the brave, the committed, the relentless. So take up this mantle now. Let ownership, reflection, responsibility, patience, purpose, adaptability, and gratitude be the pillars that uphold your transformation. Walk this path with fierce determination and gentle grace, knowing that the journey itself is the reward. You are no longer a prisoner of yesterday's mistakes. You are a creator of tomorrow's triumphs. Rise with this knowledge, live with this power, and let your life become a beacon, illuminating the way for all who dare to master their fate and never repeat the same mistake again.